Hey everybody, welcome to John Wayne Lied to You, the storytelling podcast featuring me, your old buddy pal, your buddy pal. That's something, right? Buddy pal? That feels like it was something or a doll. Anyway, your old buddy pal, John Wayne. Yours truly, right here. Your friend who writes books and stories and tells tales and plays music. All of those things. That's me. I'm here. And it's been another pretty good week, I've got to say. There's been some stresses, I am not immune to those things, but good stuff. I'm excited to be here again to tell another story. Back at Wayne Manor, nestled. God, what the fuck is wrong with me? Nestled tightly in the oh so loving bosom of the Library of Evil. I've got my nice tall ice cold Lone Star beer and a pipe of Grandpappy's medicine. Yeah, so we're doing okay and feeling good. One of the major good things that happened was this week was I finally had got completed the work on my house and property from the Hurricane Harvey damage that I suffered, which I talked about on the Harvey episode that I did a few weeks back. But basically, long story short, a big tree from my neighbor's yard fell across my backyard. I had a whole shed back there that wasn't really like, when I say shed, that doesn't really do it justice, because the guy that had this house before me, like, he built this shed. So it was like, it had like a real door on it, like a front door to your house. And it was all electric inside. Like he had built what do you call those things that you plug into? Sockets or whatever. And then he had lights in there that were automatic when you walked in, they were motion, so it lit up. And he had a whole workbench in there for tools and shit that I would never have used. But anyway, it doesn't matter now because this tree destroyed it, and it took out part of the fence, and it fucked up part of my roof, and all that kind of shit. So, but like I said, I got off very, very light compared to a lot of my friends and people around. But it's done. The crew finished yesterday, so my backyard is back to normal. My fence is built. It's not really back to normal because now there's just a big slab of concrete where this shed was. So, we might rebuild something over there. I don't know if it's going to be another shed, but talks. We're in the talks. Talks are in the works, and the works are in the talks. Other than that, I've just been busy, trying to promote the new book and Death Backs and Left Hand Paths, you say? Yes. And just doing that and having a grand old time lately, working with my good buddy Nick P this week on a bunch of very cool ideas for some shows that a show that we are going to do. Look for it starting in January and on YouTube. And we are also doing some fun videos here and there leading up to it. And it's going to be cool, and we're playing with some animation. It's all very exciting. I'm very, very excited. Moving right along, I just want to go to the next thing that we've done this the last couple times on the podcast, and I like it, so I'm going to keep doing it until whenever. But what I've been doing is just basically a 3-card tarot reading or pull on myself and just putting them down and seeing what they have to say. And this week, pretty intriguing. I felt, not intriguing, I felt this was pretty on the nose for some things that I'm, going through and thinking about. But let me just lay it out there for you. So my first card I got was the 8 of Wands. Now, what this represents is change, movement, or travel. There's 8 wands like flying through the air. The air is clear behind them. The background is clear. It means that there is little resistance that stands in my way. Now, what's interesting about this is that I am traveling a lot coming up very soon. Next weekend, in fact, October 21st, I'll be in Austin with my buddy Lucas Mangum, Kelby Losack. Gabino is going to be there. All kinds of people at a Bizarro reading. At the Living Room of Lucas, Living Room Show. There's an event. If you're in Austin, you should come. But anyway, I'm traveling there. But then right before I started the podcast, I actually just booked my flight to BizarroCon Portland, which is coming up in like 4 weeks, 36 days, I think the counter on the website says. So I've actually been thinking a lot about Bizarro Con this week for whatever reason. Just because I'm getting excited. It's going to be a blast to see. Some people I haven't seen in a year. I did get to see a lot of people at Scares at Care, so it's going to be good to see them again so soon. It's going to be fucking rad. I'm stoked. But I just booked my plane ticket and all that kind of stuff. So uh, I've got some change in my schedule and travel coming up, so I could see that. Then the next card I drew was the star. Now, there are 7 stars in the background of this card that represent your chakras, and they're saying representing that you need to open them and cleanse your aura. Okay, so all right, and then there's 8 points on the stars, which means uh, the 8 is representative of that you need to accept your faults and love yourself in spite of them. Now, where I think this applies to me is I'm a person who runs himself uh, rather ragged with things. I'm always doing stuff. I feel like I need to be doing stuff, and I'm passionate about it, and I just go 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 go, and then I just sometimes crash, and I fall into like these weird slumps of depressions and that kind of stuff. And I'd like to stop doing that. So maybe I feel like this is saying take a step back, kind of maybe pick and choose, maybe cull down some of the things that I do and grab onto the really important ones and move forward that way. Uh, and then I do, but what's hard for me about that is, I can't relax, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. But maybe this accepting your faults and loving yourself in spite of them is me saying like, okay, that is, well, it's a great quality. I think maybe it does harm more than good sometimes, and that's what the part of that I need to address with myself. So I don't know. That's what that card made me think about when it applied to me. And then the last card I drew was the 9 of Wands. Uh, this card was pretty badass, and this I felt also it was pretty applicable. It's a dude. He's from battle. He's battle weary. He's leaning on a staff, right? And then behind him are all these wands, like kind of in like a wall that's protecting him. Now, he's tired. This guy is tired from battle. He's tired from a battle that he won. He was successful in this battle, and he's resting. He's there, and he's tired as hell. And any other person should give up, but and be done with that. And like, I won the battle. I'm satisfied. But he's not. He's tired, but he's ready. He's ready to go to the battle again. He's ready to go to the next battle. And then there's the look on his face means he's something. He stands up for what he believes in, which I do that as well. But I feel like that does kind of apply to like what I was saying earlier about burning myself out. Is like I have a hard time being satisfied with anything, like achievements, what I ate for lunch, and anything. I'm never satisfied. I never want to. I think because I'm terrified that if I feel satisfied, I'll maybe rest on my laurels and for half a minute, and then I'll become stagnant. And then, ooh, I don't want that. So I don't know. A lot of. This was a good reading. This is a lot of things for me to think about. Maybe I need to probably take this into my therapist. But anyway, so yeah, so a good tarot reading today. I feel good. I feel good about that and moving on. I feel even looser than I did before we started this. And, thanks to Grandpappy and his medicine and just this, just talking it out sometimes helps so much. But anyway, I do want to. I've had some feedback lately. I want to give some shouts out to some people who've been supporting the podcast, and I just want to say what's up to them. My buddy Jay Lee, shouts out in Austin, Texas. That's where I will be staying with him during that weekend, and we'll be spending some good time together because we love each other very much. Shouts out to old Jack boy at work, taking care of it, holding it down. Yeah, I see you, giving me the middle finger right now. And shouts out to my little sister Carrie up in Dallas, the Big D. We hate Dallas here in Houston, so Dallas sucks. But my sister, she's all right. And just kidding, Carrie. Thanks for listening. And she's always chiming in with texts and stuff. And I appreciate her feedback and I appreciate all of your feedback. And I please send anything. Please subscribe. The numbers are growing, and I feel good about that. And I'm just gonna keep chugging on. Speaking of, one last final shout out. Shouts out to my maza, because Mom listens every week. She's my number one fan, as she should be. Now, speaking of cool podcasts, one that just started a couple weeks ago that I kind of caught up on today was a couple of buddies of mine who are writers as well, authors in the bizarro genre. Danger Slater and Michael Allen Rose have a new podcast out called Unreasonably Handsome with Danger Slater and Michael Allen Rose, and it's on iTunes. So check that out. It's those two guys. They're very funny. And they work well with each other. Clearly, they're collaborating on some work right now, and they're collaborating on this podcast, and it is very funny. So that's just my little plug for the week there. I liked it, and they're my friends, so check them out. That brings us to our story today. I just thought about this morning. I'm at work. It's maybe like 5:45. I'm stoned to the gills, as Uncle Joey would say. And your mind just starts wandering, start thinking about things, right? So for some reason I was thinking about Richie Valens. Oh, because the night before, I was up here with Nick P working in the library at Wayne Manor, and he was playing Richie Valens songs. So I started thinking about La Bamba for some reason, and then that took me down this whole other path, and I started thinking about how I got started playing music. Like, sometimes it's kind of interesting to look back on those things, like the moment when it happened, or how you got the ball rolling. I don't know. Maybe we forget about those times sometimes, and we should remember them, or at least I think I should. So I was thinking about this today, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna talk about this today on the podcast. So here you go, guys. Our story this week. I'm just gonna make the title up right now as we speak. This episode and story of the podcast is called I Live for Leeds, the beginning. So to start off, I guess I want to say I'm not quite sure how these things are supposed to happen. It seems like when you hear a lot of famous musicians or even actors or what, we'll stick to musicians for this example, interviewed, and they say, well, how did you get started playing music? And at least to me, it always seems like there's a story of like, well, my brother, I had an older brother who listened to, fucking Deep Purple, got me into it, and I just loved it, and I'd sneak records, and then I, got a guitar, so, like that, something like that, or it's just like, I saw Jimi Hendrix on something on TV, and I fell in love with that sound and that ability, and I just wanted to make that, like, at least to me, it seems like that's the way a story that you tell when someone asks you how you got started in something is supposed to go, but, I don't really think there is any supposed to's when it comes to stuff like this, but that's just what it feels like, and I don't have one of those pulls, mine is so, well, we'll get to it, but anyway, let's start with, we'll start with this. The year is 1986. I have freshly turned 7 years old, and my family and I had just recently moved to Houston, Texas, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We lived up there, and my dad's uncle lived in Houston. Uncle Bob, shouts out to Uncle Bob. I call him Uncle Bob. I call him Great Uncle because that's just like laborious, I guess. It seems like a waste. But Uncle Bob, so he lived down here in Houston with his family, and my dad, was close with him. I guess looking for a career change and some better. A better job, whatever, and he comes down here to Houston. My uncle hooks him up, and next thing you know, loaded up the truck, and we moved to Houston, and we were here. Now, when we first moved here, I think there was it probably had to do with the timetable that like my dad came down and interviewed a couple times with this place. It was called Grove's Industrial Supply, and they sold industrial supplies. Imagine that. And he got the job, but I think like he had to start sooner than we had a lot of time to prepare for, maybe because we didn't have a place to live when we moved here. I guess we didn't have time to secure a place, but we were staying with Uncle Bob at his house with his wife then, and his two sons. That would be my second cousins, Chad and Chris. Shouts out. Yeah, I used your names. Fuck off. I don't care. But no, you guys are great. But so we lived there for, I really couldn't tell you how long. I mean, maybe a couple weeks, maybe a couple months. I can't remember till we eventually found apartments, and we went and we all lived in an apartment. But we're staying at my Uncle Bob's house. And, you know, my Uncle Bob he was one of those guys, he still is one of those guys where, those guys that could just get you something like, man, I sure could use that. What do you need? What are you looking for? Huh? What are we talking about? You're one of those kind of guys. That was my Uncle Bob. He could just figure out a way to make it happen. Like he knew a guy all the time. He always knew a guy. So this movie had come out. Well, I guess let me backtrack. My background in music, I didn't have an older brother. I was the oldest in our house. And my mom, shouts out mom, she was really into her God at the time, and she still is, but she's loosened the reins a little bit as far as she's opened her mind a little bit more, I think. But she was very strict with us about what we could listen to as kids, my sister and brother and I. And she's doing what she thought was best for us. She wanted to protect us from certain things that she thought were bad, like the truth. No, just joking. So we didn't have rock music, and she didn't listen to music that I really remember. But my dad listened to old country music, classic country. And I remember riding around he had a Scout at one point, a yellow Scout, and then he had a green truck, and we would drive around and he would listen to country music, and those songs got stuck in my head, and I love those songs to this day. I love classic country. If you come see John Wayne is Dead play one of our cover sets, Chris and I play just tons of classic country. You can hear Cerberus is not a fan of classic country. He's just going nuts over there. But we'll keep it in because I think it's character for the podcast. But nonetheless, so I just listened to classic country all the time. So I didn't have a rock and roll hard on for rock and roll, or even have a really good idea of what rock and roll was. I had some older cousins. I think I watched half a Twisted Sister video with them one time, and then my mom made me go pray or something. So I just didn't have that base. I didn't know what was going on. Some freshly turned 7. There had recently been a movie in theaters called Back to the Future. I did not get to see this movie in the theaters. I don't think we saw many movies in the theaters before we moved to Texas. I'm not sure. Anyway, I didn't get to see it, but it had just come out on video cassette, VHS, to rent this day. It launched, right? And my cousins were all about, they had to have this movie. They saw it. They wanted to see it. They were like, oh, you got to see it. We got to show you. Everywhere is fucking sold out, of course, or, rented out. And we're calling a bunch of video stores, and I don't know what's going on. So I'm just yeah, oh, they don't have it, darn. And then my uncle, I think, just what do you need? What do we need? Back to the what? Back to the Future. Oh, okay. Let me make a call. Comes back, he's all right, just pick it up at Vinny's VHS down the street. It's holy shit. So we rode our bikes down to the place. My cousin got it. We came back, and I sat down to watch what pretty much became my favorite movie. It was my favorite movie of all time until The Big Lebowski came along. Ooh, texting. So this movie, Back to the Future, captured my imagination in a big, bad way. All the way around. The story, the idea of time travel itself, the characters, and the music. In this movie, I'm sure you've all seen, but as a kid, I'm watching it. There's this dude. He's pretty cool. His name's Marty McFly. First thing he does in the movie, first fucking thing he does, he cranks an electric guitar, blows the speakers out, and just like falls back, wrecks the shop, and he just says rock and roll. You know, like that's awesome. I was like, whoa, that's fucking cool. And you know, he's in a band. He's trying out for the talent show, and you know, funny ass scene. He's you know, the band rips open their opening riff of, they get like maybe 4 bars into Power of Love, and then the principal says as they're trying, I'm sorry, you're just too darn loud, and it's Huey Lewis. You know, that's great because that's the song. Anyway, so it goes all through the movie. There's all these great songs, you know, and you know, fucking the girl writes the note and takes it, and then like all of a sudden they bring up real loud, that's the power of love, you know, and you just like, my little like you know, baby boner was like, yeah, this is fucking awesome, man. It's like, what the fuck is this? I'm just like I was overstimulated. And then, you know, we all know how the story goes. We get to the end. We're at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance, and Marty almost fades off into oblivion. He's saved. George McFly, his father, grows a pair. And then to celebrate, he famously turns to the backing band and says, this is a blues riff in B. Watch me for the changes and try to keep up. And then proceeds to play Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good. And that was the first time I'd ever even heard that song. And I'm watching a fictitious person perform it in a fantasy movie. And I am enthralled. And all I can think of is how I want to be that guy. I wanted to be Michael J. Fox playing the guitar. I wanted to play and jump around and get on my back and play solos, and that was it. It just, that's what I was like, man, I want to play guitar. I want to learn how to play guitar. And I told my parents at the time, and you know, they weren't too thrilled about the idea. You know, rightfully so. We just moved. We're trying to find a place to live. The last thing they need is to, like, you know, try to buy me a guitar, take me to guitar lessons. You know, I understand it wasn't the right time, you know, and I'm actually very happy with the way the time worked out. But to like kind of like halfway satiate me, like I believe my mom, maybe it was like a joint present from my mom and grandmother, gave me like the Back to the Future soundtrack on cassette tape and the soundtrack to La Bamba on cassette tape. Now, I think if I remember correctly, the only reason I watched La Bamba or was able to watch La Bamba or something was because it was like, hey, this is another movie with like rock and roll. You'll probably like it. It's a true story. Maybe my dad said that to me. Maybe I'm making this all up. I have no idea. But I watched La Bamba and I was really into those songs too. So I had these cassettes, right? And I played them all day, every day, like for hours. Like I just like listened to them over and over again. This was like way before they had air guitar competitions or like, you know, viral videos or even cameras to take videos. But if they did, my parents could have probably made a lot of embarrassing videos of me air guitaring in my room and singing along, off-key caterwauling, without knowing that they were watching me. Probably would be pretty funny, because I just like go for it, man. I wanted to play these songs. I wanted to be these guys, and those soundtracks are killer. Come on, give me a break. We got, you know, you got Los Lobos, you know, ripping some of the Richie Valens tunes on there. You got O'Donna, you got La Bamba, you got Come On, Let's Go, and then on the, you know, Back to the Future, you got Huey Lewis. What else do you need? I don't know. Nothing, probably. So I listened to these tapes so much that I wore them out, and that was before I knew that was a thing you could do. It really upset. I remember being really upset about it. Like, you know, I guess what happens is the tape just wears. It just is played so much, it either breaks or warps or something and just doesn't play right, and the speed sounds off. And I was so disappointed. I was like, what the fuck? That can happen to a tape? I cannot believe it. But of course I did get replacements and listened to them. And, you know, I listened to that stuff for a while before I got into like other kind of rock and roll that would lead me to want to play guitar, to kind of rekindle that guitar want for music or want to try it again, it was 10 years later when I was 16. The Christmas for when I was 16, I asked for a guitar, and and the next morning I got a guitar. It's kind of funny. It's like one of those things where if you're not like, when the genie like fucks you over because you're not specific about something, um, you're like, I want $1 million, and he's like, okay, ding, and then like, you're transported to an airtight safe with $1 million in it, and he's like, it's all yours, but you can't get out and you die because there's no air. It's kind of like that, because I said I wanted a guitar, and in my mind I'm thinking like, electric guitar, Stratocaster or something of that nature. And I come downstairs Christmas morning, and there's a nylon string classical guitar under the tree, and I'm like, what? Oh, is this okay? I guess this is what I start on, right, or learn. And I remember I tried to fuck with it that day, and I just was like, this is just not right. So I told my dad, and he was like, all right, we'll go exchange it. So he had actually like bought this at a pawn shop that my Uncle Bob, this was one of the guys he knew, owned this place. So we went back, and usually you cannot, I don't know if you were familiar with how pawn shops work, but it's not like the customer service at Walmart. They do not take things back. At least none of that I've been in. But my dad was like, yeah, this is the wrong guitar for him. We need to exchange it. And he was like, oh, all right, Bill, I'll take care of you, because, it's Wild Bill. So we looked around, and they didn't have any like electric guitars, really. They had all acoustic guitars at this pawn shop for some reason. So they actually gave my dad his money back. We went to Guitar Center, and I got a cheap ass $100 Squier Fender Stratocaster. And that began my journey. I sucked. I started taking lessons from this dude, Robert Hampton, who's still fucking out there giving lessons. I see him at Texas Music Emporium to this day. And I'll tell you what, that was 21 years ago, people, when I started taking lessons with this guy. He looks the fucking same. Exactly the same. He dresses the same. His hair is the same. His glasses are the same. His face is the same. This guy is a witch. Robert Hampton, look him up. Great guitar teacher, though. And that's what started it, man. And then of course, as soon as you start playing guitar, you join a band. And I started my first band with my good friend Pat Blake, and it was called Penis Wrinkle Jones, and it was a 2-piece punk rock band about stupid songs that we did and played in the garage and recorded on a boombox. And now, years later, full circle, I play in a 2-piece punk band where we sing about stupid stuff. And boy, I really couldn't be happier. All right, there you go. I Live for Leeds, the beginning. I think that's what I called it. But yeah, I just was thinking about those, and I know I skipped a big part from first band to most recent band, but I think I want to save some of those juicy bits in there for some other stories to break off for you. So I don't want to show my hand, if you will. Just want to give you just the tip, and then we'll go shaft deep another time, baby. Don't worry about it. But yeah, it's just fun to kind of think back of what started a spark in you to get you doing something. And for me, to playing music truly was watching Marty McFly play Johnny B. Good in Back to the Future. So, like I said, I don't think that's how those kind of stories are supposed to go, but that one's mine. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening and subscribing. Please tell all your friends. All of them, each and every one. Go through the yearbook. Call old friends, old girlfriends, old boyfriends, exes, grandmothers, seance to your dead relatives, and get them all to subscribe. Please pick up my new book, Death Packs and Left Hand Paths, from Grindhouse Press. You could, oh man, a little bit of my tall frosty Lone Star went in my nose right there. Huh, burned. Anyway, you could pick up my new book, Death Packs and Left Hand Paths, on Amazon, as well as my other books. They're all on there under my author name. If you just look me up, John Wayne Communale, you can get Charged Land and Poster, Porn Star Retirement Plan, and John Wayne Lied to You, the story collection that this podcast is named for. And you can always find everything that I'm doing and get links to everything that you want to know about me or find out on johnwayneisdead.com. So thank you guys so much. Maybe later on this afternoon or evening, you get home, you sit down on the toilet, maybe you got a half a joint in there, and you just take a little couple puffs, and you think about what got you inspired to do the thing that you're doing that you love, and maybe it might make you smile, or maybe that's just gas.
Mockingbird Network.